6. I'm gonna work till I shoot. What?
Hello guys! Ayun, bali na-discover natin ang problema, expansion valve hindi gumagana ng maayos, kaya walang suction yung aming compressor. Napatunayan natin na hindi problema ang compressor.
What you see here is a compressor having a volume of 16 liters. Meaning the compressor and the condenser need to refill a refrigerant with a value of 16 kilogram of refrigerant 407C. The problem here, my compressor have no suction. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to recover the refrigerant inside. I put on the tank, then I make a vacuum. Then after this, I'm going to remove the mechanism of the thermostatic expansion valve. Then I will put it back. Then after putting it back, I will refill a refrigerant on the compressor. Then I will run it. This is our thermostatic expansion valve, and as you will find here, once I remove it, there is an oil coming out, and it seems this oil is clogged and stuck on this orifice going to the evaporator. So I'm going to show you what is the mechanism, what is the operating principle of this TEXB. Further observation have been made, and as what you will see here, once we remove this TEXB, there is a plenty oil coming out, and we are suspected that due to the clogged oil on the orifice going to the evaporator, that is one reason why we don't have suction. But to further check, I'm going to clean it, then temporarily remove the TEXB mechanism, and then put it back again and make a vacuum. Then we will run the compressor. But before I'm going to take the inside mechanism of the TEXB, I'm going to show you first and discuss some basic principles how the TEXB is working. This is the TEXB adjuster. Once you rotate it in a counterclockwise direction, the spring gear mechanism inside will rotate in a clockwise directions. Rotating in a clockwise direction of a gear, you are reducing the pressure of the spring. Once the pressure of the spring is being reduced, you are able and allow a more refrigerant to flow from in to out of the TEXB. More refrigerant flow from in to out of your TEXB going to the evaporator makes a less superheat. This less superheat, you have a less heat absorption on your evaporator. Take note, enough refrigerant fill about 16 kilogram is the one who moves up or lift up the valve to allow the refrigerant flow from in to outlet of your TEXB. As you will find here, there is a valve set and there is gasket. Is it impossible for you to flow the refrigerant from in to out if the refrigerant values or feed refrigerant on your compressor and condenser is not enough? As you will find here, there is a hole, and this is a balancing or equalizing pipe from which the excess refrigerant will flow from this pipe and going back through on the compressor suction side. You may need to check also that everything is good, no burst gasket, and there is no dirt inside of this TEXB valve set. For you to understand further, I just removed the TEXB mechanism. This is a gear inside have a thread. Once the thread is rotated clockwise or counterclockwise, you may increase or lessen the spring tension. This is a valve set from which you are able to restrict the refrigerant flow from flowing from inlet to outlet of your TEXB. So once this valve is front seated, the refrigerant will not flow. So what you must need to do is to reduce the spring pressure by rotating the thread gear mechanism in a clockwise direction. Once you rotate it, as you will find here, the spring length become long. Once the spring length become long, the spring pressure become less. Less pressure is required, exerted from compressor discharge side, lifting up and open the valve, allowing to flow the refrigerant to flow in and out on TEXB from condenser to the evaporators. In practice, you may need to adjust the adjuster by rotating it 1/4 quarter at a time and observe. Then if still no good cooling, you may adjust again by 1/2, that is 180 degrees from the original position, making a 270, then making a 360, until you may reach a good performance cooling effect on your evaporator and refrigeration system. Here is the demo from which you will feel how the spring pressure is being lifted up by the refrigerant flow, which is encountered force with a needle of your sensing valve. You may observe I just able to push this valve seat. Making this, you will allow the refrigerant flow from coming in and out on your TEXB. Now I'm going to show you if I strengthen or increase the spring pressure. I need to rotate this gear thread of my TEXB mechanism in a counterclockwise direction, and once you push it by your hand, you will not able to push it easily. Meaning, once you are not able to push it easily, you are restricting the refrigerant flow. Less refrigerant flow, higher the superheat. Higher the superheat, you absorb more heat on the evaporator. Then the heat being absorbed by the evaporator will be disposed by your condenser. Now I'm just putting back the TEXB without internal mechanism, and what I'm planning is to let the TEXB connected without this internal mechanism. Then I'm going to look if there is refrigerant flow from the side glass to the TEXB. Observe if there is a suction pressure, and also if there is a refrigerant discharge pressure. This service valve is front seated, meaning the yellow hose here is closed. Make sure before it started the compressor, you might need to refill it with a gas refrigerant. This is a red hose. I connected it on my gauge manifold. Then I'm going to open this blue valve from the gauge manifold. Now I'm just refilling a gas refrigerant on my compressor. As you may find, my suction gauge now is moving up. And then this oil, as you observe before, it is half, and I'm going to put also some gas refrigerant from my recovery tank. So I just crack open this blue valve, then this yellow hose with a black valve on the gauge manifold, I open it, and you will may observe that the gauge is now moving, and I feel more gas refrigerant on the compressor. As I observed, once I refill a gas refrigerant on my compressor, there is a thick sound comes out on the suction side of my compressor, meaning we are able to lift up the suction valve within 2.2 to 2.4 bar. Having this pressure, is it ready? And we can little bit close this gas so that we will eliminate the flooding on the compressor. And now I'm going to look on the side glass. I'm going to switch on now the circuit breaker. Then this is the sub circuit breaker inside of the control panel, and I started now the compressor. As you may take a look, there is no flow. Then I'm going to put this mechanical solenoid valve. Once we put a mechanical solenoid valve in there, there is a partial refrigerant flow. Is it verified that due to the lack of the refrigerant charge, the thermostatic expansion valve is malfunctioned, meaning the valve seat is not able to lift up and allow the refrigerant flow from inlet side to the outlet side of my TEXB. Please take note that the refrigerant inside we have on my refrigeration system is only 4 kg instead of having a 16 kg refrigerant. But since I don't have any refrigerant on board, I'm going to recover the refrigerant on my recovery tank by means of recovery pump. Then I will do vacuum. Then after vacuum, I'm going to close the service valve, then put back the TEXB internal mechanism, put everything as it is. Then I will put again refrigerant on my compressor. Then I will run it again for you to see if still the refrigerant is no longer able to lift up the valve seat internal mechanism of my TEXB. Good thing I'd like to emphasize is that I will be able to produce a 6.6 bars pressure suction on my compressor. Before, it is less than 0 bars, but normally about 2.4 bars. Also, improvement is that I found that this compressor is having a discharge pressure. Normally, operating pressure is 14.4. Now I have 17 bars. Further good thing is that I observed that the oil inside of the compressor is now moving, and for you to see what's happened if the TEXB is restricted the refrigerant flow from passing in and out on my TEXB, all the refrigerant will be returned back on the suction of my compressor. To do this, I'm going to close this valve going to the evaporator, and as you may take a look, all the refrigerant will flow on the equalizing pipe, and inside the compressor you will see that there is a flooding meaning you produce a lot of bubbles inside of the compressor. That is what's happening, guys. That is a good sign that the compressor is working properly. So once you open this valve, the refrigerant will be divided Some will flow on the evaporator and some will flow goes back on the compressor suction. On this condition, you will see the bubbling or flooding is eliminated. So that's it guys, because I don't have any refrigerant at all on board. What I'm planning to do, I'm going to put back everything, the internal mechanism of the TXB, then I'll do recover all the refrigerant, remove, do a pump down, do a vacuum, then I'm going to put a new refrigerant which comes on the next port. Then I'm expecting that our ECR air conditioning system will work properly without any problem. Thank you, and hope that you've been get a knowledge and better understanding on how the ECR air conditioning system is working. Thank you. Oiler, no? Ginagawa niya ng magandang gasket. Yan ang gasket. Dahil yung gasket ng aming expansion valve.
Sinira ko.
Meron siya.
Sinira ko.
Yan, putol. Putol siya mga kaibigan. Ang kalangitan, malakas na hangin, maalon. Yan ang aming dagat ngayon. Kami ay nasa Somalia Sea. Yan ang aming dagat ngayon. Magandang umaga, Pilipinas.